I see that Jonathan has joined us. If you're ready to go, Jonathan, we're all ready.
So today we're going to go over the general idea behind the highway lighting system, what field apps are available for using it, and how to take advantage of all of the new things that we've been working on for this, trying to get all the apps to work and talk correctly, and some new things that'll kind of build on what ISPE used to do, and that we're hoping to bring over there when we're sure it's working here in highway lighting. I'm going to start with just kind of a summary. This is a document that will be going on to our website later, but I bring it up. So the way the highway lighting system is set up is we have the load centers, we have the lights, we have the outages, and the anti-theft devices, pull boxes, splice boxes. The load centers are optional. That's based on how your district's preference is for collecting and relating them to that or not. So you can have a load center, add all your lights to it, and then all the outages will be reported to each light. Or if you don't use load centers, you can just report the lights directly and continue reporting outages that way. The other map features and the notes that we introduced in ISPE will just kind of be standalone points on the map. So you can use those to your heart's content to best describe what's out there. With the highway lighting system, we are using Survey 123, Collector, and we're introducing the Explorer application. Survey 123 will be used for adding the lights and outages. Collector will be used for adding the load centers, the components, and the notes, and Collector is where you can go to get the link to add a light related to a load center and to add an outage record. And I'll be showing more of that later. And then we're introducing Explorer because Collector is our maps are fully online. There's no disconnected editing. So the only way you can get access to the data in the field, say you're somewhere in the middle of nowhere without a signal, you'll be able to download the data on an Explorer map and have all of the load centers, lights, outages, everything on your device that you can take out there. And then you'll be able to get into Survey 123 because Survey 123 will let you store surveys in the outbox until you get back online. And we'll be going over some of that as well. The apps that we intend to use are available on all devices. I've been working very hard the past few days as we fix an issue I had with Windows 10 Survey 123 that I think we will be able to get everybody to be able to add lights related to load centers and outages from your Windows 10 machine. I know we had issues where we were saying it doesn't look like it's going to be possible. You'll need an Android or iOS device, but we were able to make that link work again on Windows 10 machines. So your laptop, your tablet, a Surface Pro, whatever you might have with Windows that you're using for field collection, you'll be able to now use that as well. And I'll kind of show some of the differences between when you're on one device versus the other. And then the general workflow summary is you'll probably be starting in Collector or Explorer. And then if you need to, the app will put you into Survey 123 and then put you back where you were. The only exception is if you're not reporting load centers, then you might start Survey 123 for the lights, but you'll still use Collector for the outages. And then the rest of this document will cover all of the different topics we'll be talking about today, such as downloading and updating the forms, downloading offline areas in Survey 123, downloading offline areas in Explorer, and how to add all the things in Collector and Survey to be able to populate the map the way that we've worked. So from here, I'm going to stop sharing from the desktop and jump over to the iPad. And if you'll notice, my screen should be sharing now for everyone. I can see it as well. It's going a little slow, so I'll try to slow down and wait for things to load for everybody.
Jonathan, is that manual going to be on the website?
Yes, that manual will be on the website. And our other documentation that's out there on the main e-maintenance page will also be updated as well. So here we have all the apps that are available on the iPad. The ones we'll be focusing on are the 4 on the top. We have Explorer, Survey 123, Collector and Collector Classic. We're encouraging everyone to start using the new Collector and get off of Classic. Esri is focusing on the new Collector now, and the old one won't receive updates, bug fixes the way when it used to be the primary app. And we've been adding some more functionality to the maps based on what the new Collector can do. So things run a little smoother when you're using the new Collector versus the old Collector. I believe that should now be available in Comp Portal for both Android and iOS devices, and Windows 10 is still using the same Collector as before. So to start off, I'm going to pull up the Survey123 app. I'm going to show off how you can download the forms, how you can update the forms. So you'll see on my screen here, I have 6 surveys downloaded. I have 6 updates available. If I did not have the highway lighting forms, the 2 on the bottom, we have the inventory and the outage form. My user initials in the upper right corner, it says JF and there's a green dot next to it. I'm going to tap on that and I'll have an option to download surveys. So from download surveys, it'll bring up a list of all of the forms that have been shared with me on ArcGIS Online. Fortunately, the e-maintenance forms were updated earlier today, so they're all at the top, but you can also start typing to search for the forms as well. So it's really easy to find the forms you're looking for. If you don't have the forms downloaded, the icon on the right here next to each form would be a little cloud with a down on it. Since I already have the forms downloaded, there's a refresh button on there. So I could tap that button and that will download the form. This page also at the bottom of the screen has a button that says download updates 5. If I tap that button, I can update all the forms at once. That same title bar is here at the top of Survey123 as well. So the new survey is very good about letting you know when there's new form updates. And if you didn't update your form on Windows 10, it was telling me it was required, but it's not doing it here. So I'll pretty much come into the update surveys button that I had. I'll just make sure I download all of the forms ahead of time. And now I have the latest versions of all of the forms. So if you used ISP, you know how to use the forms. If you don't know the way to use the forms from here, if you are not collecting load centers, you could tap on the highway lighting inventory form here, the yellow icon on the bottom left of the list. It'll bring you to this screen with some details about the form. It'll tell you when the form content was last updated, when the extracts in the form were last updated, and kind of let you know ahead of time. If you're trying to add this to a load center, you need to go to Collector or Explorer. Otherwise, you would hit the Collect button here at the bottom of the screen, and that will pull up the survey form on your device. And this form currently shows we're still in the testing phase. Once we go to implementation, this form will be updated to go to the production database, and that message at the top will be removed. So that'll be one way you'll know you have the production version of the form. But otherwise, you'd start by selecting your lighting type. We're collecting poles, underdecks, sign structures, high mast. The form will update what questions it asks you based on what you choose. I know the underdeck is the shortest of the forms, so I'm going to use that for an example. Here in the location information, you can select a map. You can pinch to zoom and zoom in on your location. You can also select different base maps that you can use as well. So normally you just complete the form as required. You'll be able to fill in information about the roadway in the field. If you don't know it, you can tap the buttons and the questions won't be required on the form. You can fill them out in Collector or whenever you need to. You can enter in a load center number here. And depending on what type of maintaining agency it is, you can choose which of the questions you need to answer to completely describe the maintaining agency. And then in the lighting information, it'll ask for the bridge number, the luminaire ID. The forms are automatically updated every day to include some basic RCI and BRM data for just valid number checks verification. So if you accidentally type a bridge number in wrong, the form will try to tell you, hey, this doesn't look like a valid bridge number. Are you sure that's what you wanted? If the bridge is new and hasn't been added to the form yet, you could just tap the button that says it's correct. If the bridge number was incorrect, you could just put in the correct bridge number and that message goes away. And then finally, it asks for the light type and count. You can select one specific type of light. You can select multiple lights. If you select multiple lights, or if you select the other light type, there's a text field where you can enter in additional information. So if you had 2 HPS and 2 LEDs, you could specify that. And then the total light count would be 4. or if you don't know what kind of bulb it is, you can describe the other type that it might be in this field here. And then at the bottom, the forms have a new question for adding attachments. We no longer have individual lines for specific photos, and then you have to go to collector to add the rest. You can now add photos and files right here from the form. If I were to tap the camera icon here, it will pull up the camera. I can take my photo, and that attachment is now here at the bottom. If I wanted, I can delete that photo. I can also choose to rename it or rotate it if it's not right. And I can also go in and select an additional photo to attach. If you had multiple photos, it would now show this is image 2 of 2. If I click on this left arrow here to the side of it under the photos word, I can scroll to the first photo, so you can see all the photos in the same line that you're uploading with it. And then for files, you can basically put a PDF file, a Word file, whatever you need that's necessary for reporting your lights. And after everything is submitted, you hit the checkbox. It will tell you the survey is completed successfully. If you have any error messages, it will pull you back to that part of the form where something is wrong, and then you can correct it and then submit it. And then we want everyone to submit their forms as soon as possible, just so that a form update or maybe your device gets lost or drops in a puddle or something. You don't want to lose the data that's on there. So the sooner you can submit it into the database, the better off it'll be. And then that's filling out the form. If I were to be going to an area that did not have service, I would not be able to pull up the Esri-based maps because there'd be no data connection. It would be a gray screen. So we've included the ability to download maps offline to Survey 123. So from this screen here, where you can see the survey form information, there's a menu icon, 3 lines in the upper right corner. If you tap that, there will be an option for offline maps. And if you tap on that, you will see a list of all of the different chunks around the state that we have pre-created that you can download and have that imagery when you're offline. So for example, I want to have just the streets statewide. I tap the little cloud icon next to it. It will download the map tile package, and then it will tell me that an update is not required. If an update was required, that message would say there's an update available. You would just hit this little refresh button on the right next to the 3 dots, and that will just download the latest data from the map package. I'm going to download one more area just so I can show you what it looks like in the Survey 123 form. When you have the maps downloaded offline, when you go to collect, when you open up the inventory point location and you get the full screen, there is the 4 square icon, that's the base maps, that's above the plus icon. When you tap on that, you have all of the layers that are available when you're online, but you'll notice that the top of the list are the 2 offline maps that I downloaded. So I've got the streets view of Southeast Florida, and I have the streets statewide view. So if I tap on that, it's now using the map data that's stored on my device. The map will only zoom in and zoom out to the extent that's available in the package. So if it needs to be more detailed, we'll have to create it. And then you'll also notice in this package that it will only show you everything that we've created in the boundary for Florida. You won't be able to see anything up in Georgia or Alabama. But that's one way that you can use the survey form when you are offline to collect lights, so that you can still get a general idea of where you are. I'm looking for... So here we have the Southeast Florida layer that I created. This layer, you can zoom in a little bit closer than what the statewide layer has to offer. The packages can only be so big and have so many tiles that we can't do detailed layers as one map. We have to do individual maps, but this will let you generally see the intersection and place it where it needs to be. And so that is completing the highway lighting inventory form if you're not using load centers. So with that, I'm going to close this survey and move over to our next app, which is the collector app. And this is the app where everything else is done and how you can get to relating lights and load centers and everything like that. So I am returning to the home screen. I am choosing the new collector, the one that says collector under it, not classic. The map automatically put me into the last map I was in, and that would be the test collector map for our test system. The easiest way to find all the highway lighting maps will be to go to this maintenance office HWLO editing group. Once the system goes into production, you will see all of the maps available for collection in here. To show you what some of those maps look like, we've got a map for every district so that everyone can see their own data, what's coded to them. It helps us prevent multiple people working from the same map and the same data and any kind of collisions. We've had some issues with glitches in the past, and breaking everything out by district like this kind of helps us keep things from happening to all of our data statewide. But for today's example, we're just going to focus on the test map because everything that this map does is in all of the district maps. So you'll see here on this map, I've got the one point that I had created before. If I were to tap on it, you'll notice on the left-hand side of the screen, once it loads, that you have links to add an outage record using the Survey 123 form. There are specific links depending on what device you are using. So if you are on an Android or iOS device, you should use the link that states that. If you're on your desktop on Windows 10 or your laptop, you should use the Windows 10 link. Those links work a little differently to trigger the app to open it and get you going. And then one other thing we've added is a link to our web app. I'm not sure if enough people are aware that that's there. Because of the way the editing permissions are set up for each layer in collector, you can't see what lights are related to what load center in collector. You can create related lights, but you will never see the relationship. So to see a load center, click on it and what lights are related, you need to either use an updated offline map in Explorer, and I'll get to that in a bit, or you can use this link to our web app. The web app will have all of the relationships intact. It's not an editing map. It's a map for viewing and querying points. So this location where I am here at the Berry building, I'm going to tap on the link for Android iOS. It's going to open up my browser. It's going to ask me to sign in. But basically that link will take you to the web app that we have, and it'll center you in on the location where that asset was located. So if once we have the highway lighting data production added to this web app, you would be able to go right to that point on the map. It will be the same map that you would use for ISPE, approach terminals and crash cushions. It will be another layer on there so that from any of our collector maps, you'll be able to go to this web app and see all of the data together. And then to return to the other app, you can hit the recents button on your device. On iOS, you can double tap the home screen and pull up the app switcher and go back to where you were. So this light is fine. It's its own standalone light, but the next thing we want to focus on now is if you are using load centers, how do you do that? And then how do you add lights to it? I'm going to close this pop-up window. And on the bottom right corner of the screen, there is a blue plus button. It might look a little different or be located somewhere else on another version of collector, but generally you're just looking for that plus button that collector uses for adding new features. When you click on that, you'll get a pop-up window with a list of features that you can add to the map. We have our notes layer, which is just a standalone point. You can put whatever you want in there. Maybe you need someone to update a photo, fix some data, anything like that. You have your load centers, and then you have your anti-theft devices, pull boxes, splice boxes, everything like that. We'll start with the load centers by tapping on it. It will pull up a map, and I can choose where to place it. I'm going to say it's over here. I will tap add point. It places a point at that location. I can choose to take a new photo or attach an existing file. On the district maps, this question will be pre-populated based on which map you're in, but for now I'm going to check central office. This load center number, I'll make up a number. I'll say near, hit done. And so that is all the information that we have for the load center. We'll hit the submit button and it will refresh the map with the location of that point right there. You will now see the information about that load center point pop up. You can see the number, who edited it, and you'll also get links at the top for adding a new related lighting record. And so if you are doing load centers, you don't need to open Survey 123 first. You can come right to Collector or Explorer, and I'll show Explorer in a bit, but it'll look just like this. To add a new related lighting record, So because I wanted to now add a light that belongs to this load center, I will tap the link for it, this top one here because I'm on an iPad, and that will open up the Survey123 app. It will open up that inventory form, and that message at the top about not being related to the light has gone away. And if I scroll down on the form, you will notice under the load center information, it took that load center ID and the load center number and pre-populated into the form. So all you have to fill out now is the meter number optionally, or don't. And then you would just fill out the rest of the form the same way as you would fill out any other survey form. Fill in all the information. Answer to my post that was wrong, so it gives me a pop-up saying that it exceeds the limits of what's in RCI. Just going to hit it's correct for this demo. I'll choose the offset, the state road number. I also need to remember to place the point. I will not fill in any maintaining agency information for the heights. So it's 80. There are 6 luminaires. And for the high mast lights, all you need to do is select the light type, put in any notes if applicable. The total light count pulls from that other field, so you don't have to type the same number twice. You can enter in your photos and your attachments, hit submit. And then once you hit the send now button, it will automatically take you back to that collector map. That's a new thing we've added and working with integrating the apps, that you don't have to manually go back. It should put you back into the app that you came from. And you'll notice here on the map, we have our new high mast record. It's got the load center number and everything filled in already. And when the system gives the load center number its unique ID, it will come back to all of the related lights and assign it that number there, so that in context of the system, we know which point it belongs to. And that'll help kind of, if multiple districts happen to use the same load center number, we have another way to kind of identify it administratively, which one is which. And let's say that this light that we've added here has a anti-theft device. I can tap on the anti-theft device option from the collection. I can place the point, specify the district, and submit it. And now we have that anti-theft device recorded at the location of the light. And when you tap on that area, you'll see all the different lights that are, or assets that are at that location. And so that is how you would add a light that is related to a load center. The only thing left to cover now is the outage form. And to record an outage, you would open up the lighting record that you've created. You will choose the option to add a new outage record. It will automatically open up the Survey123 form, and the form is set up that it will automatically fill in the inspector name based on the signed in user of the device, so you don't have to type in your name every time you fill out an outage survey. And it will also automatically put the timestamp of right now when you open the form. So all you have to do to report an outage is tap that link, enter the number of lights that are out, and hit the submit button, and that's it. We've kind of taken some inspiration from the Quick Capture app to try and make the Survey123 process as quick as possible. When you are driving down the road using Collector or Explorer, this blue location dot. So when you are using Collector and Explorer, there's a blue location dot that shows your GPS location and the accuracy of it as best as it can be. So when you're driving down the road, all you have to do is tap on the point and hit that outage record link, fill in the number of lights that are out, and that's it. If you are on using the Explorer map and you're offline, you would just save the outage form to the outbox, and then you would submit them all later. And then the outages would appear if you refresh the point by clicking on it again. There's that outage record we had created. So that would be how you would add the outage to it, and all the outages will be sorted by when the run was performed. To edit any of these assets. When you tap on the point and you get to this pop-up with all the information, there is a pencil icon. If you tap on that, you'll have the option to move the point location. So I'm going to say this belongs over here. I see that I have 2 attachments along with it. And let's say that I know what the section number is now. I can come in here, fill in missing information as necessary, hit the submit button, and that will update the data for that point. And then for the outages, let's say that you've reported an outage and it's been fixed. There is a date fixed field that is not included on the survey form, but if you come to edit in collector, you can choose the date of when it was fixed. Let's say it was fixed Sunday at 9:42 a.m. That will mark it in the system as no longer being an outage. When we start implementing the web apps, we're going to have maps that either highlight or solely show the points that have outages reported so that you can quickly find, query, figure out where your outages are. We'll have calculations of how long it took to be fixed. And we'll be able to do some things based on the information that's populated here on the form. And so as far as collector goes, that would be how you would add the PO boxes, splice boxes. That would be where you would add a load center, add the lighting records, add the outage records. And so everything is now in the database. Going forward from the start, Explorer might not be as useful until you get data populated into it. But I'm going to jump over to Explorer now, next to show what that app can do. So here in Explorer, it's automatically pulled me into the last map that I used, but I'm going to return to the home screen to show all of the maps. If you have a map favorited in ArcGIS Online, it's going to put all of the maps under this favorite section, but the easiest way to find the highway lighting maps would be to scroll down to the group section. There's the Maintenance Office Highway Lighting Editing group. When you tap on that, you'll have the maps that are available. Explorer will show all the maps that are shared. There's no way to turn off the maps not intended for Explorer. So just look for the maps that say the highway lighting, outage, district Explorer map, turnpike Explorer map. For the test system, it'll say test Explorer map. But when we go into production, you will see we've got maps available for every district. This is to help keep down the size of the offline packages and to make it easier to figure out when you're just working with your own data, you're not downloading data for another district that's not relevant. And then we have 2 maps for each district, one with the streets imagery and one with the satellite imagery. There's no way to change the base map. To have one or the other or both, you have to download them both separately. So if you wanted to work, let's say District 1, and I wanted to have both streets and imagery, when I open up the District 1 map, you'll see we have some pre-selected areas. I've gone ahead and I've tried to group the different counties as best as I could to not have too much overflow into other counties, have cut off partial counties, but each area is kind of broken up. To download an area, you'll notice that all of these have a little square with a down icon. All you have to do is tap that download button. It will download the data from the last time it updated, and it will show as on the device now. So now I have this area of Polk County on my device where if I were suddenly on the road and I didn't have cell signal, I could still come into this map and see all of the points contained within it. And then if I wanted the offline map for the satellite imagery, I would just have to come in and download the same thing again. The file sizes are specified under every map, so be sure that you have enough device storage on your phone, tablet, desktop, laptop before you download the packages, just so you don't have any issues not being able to get the data. And once we start having more lights and load centers and everything added, these file sizes will increase as more data is added. But for right now, I'm going to jump back to our test maps because that's where we have our test points we had created. We have 2 maps here, the Test Explorer map with the satellite imagery and the one with the streets layer. I'm going to open up the streets map here. You'll see that I have the statewide option already on my device. It says there's an update available. All of them have an update, apparently. If you just tap on it, you'll get this screen here with an option to either open it as it is or to download the updates to it. So if I were to hit update, it will pull the latest data and you'll be on your way. The data that is on the predetermined or the pre-filled, these defaults areas, the ones that we've already created for everybody, those are updated once a day at 6:30 in the morning. So any edits that you do after 6:30 a.m., you will not see it in this. These are kind of to help people get started with having Collect or Explorer available, but there isn't a way to trigger the updates more frequently. So the other option you can do is in the upper right corner of the screen, there's a 3 dots. It's kind of near where the battery is. If I tap on that, I have an option to add an offline area. And if I were to choose that, I can now create my own area on the map, and I can specify what it's going to cover, how close of detailed I want to get. I can make sure I have all the points I need included with it. There are multiple levels of details. The more detail you want on it, the closer the level of detail you select. But the consequence of that is that the boundary of the area you can download gets much smaller because there's a limit to how many, I guess, tiles for the maps that you can have created in one package at a time. If I were to choose rooms, you can see the boundary box gets a little bigger. It won't be as close as room, but it will still be close enough. So I will say download this area, and you'll see here now it's got the automated name of area 33. It's the 33rd one that I've downloaded from this device. It is currently working on packaging all the data and assembling it into an offline map that I can use. These custom offline areas that you create yourself will not update. They're pretty much snapshots in time to when you created it. So these would be best used if you were about to go out on a run. I would say create your area before you left. That way you have all the points available. Do the run. You can complete any outages as you need or add any lights as you need. And then when you've gotten back to the office and you've uploaded all of your data from Survey 123, you can clear out this offline area and free up some space. And then next time you need to go out again, maybe that same area, you would just create the area again as you need, as you see fit. While that area is downloading, I'm going to jump into the statewide map just to show what we've done with Explorer. So here you notice on the statewide view, if I'm zoomed out, I can read everything kind of legibly, but if I zoom in, nothing gets crisper because the extent that I set when I created the statewide layer was way far back, maybe neighborhoods, counties, or state or something like that. So that's one of the examples of why you might want to create your own offline areas that got a little bit more detail. And then you can have further zoomed out areas with less data if you just kind of need a general reference on a map and you don't need to read it that clearly. I will use District 2 as an example here. They have a load center point here. If I tap on it, you'll see that there's a link to the Survey 123 form, same as the collector map. So from here, you would still be able to tap on this link and go right into your lighting form, create as many lights as you need. And then when you hit the check mark to submit the point, you could just choose the outbox and you'll send it later. And then if you close the form or if you submit the form, it will also take you back to the app that you came from. So it kind of lagged a bit on the share screen, but it jumped me right back into Collector. I will double check that. It was supposed to take me back to Explorer. But then here in Explorer, we also have a link to the web app. Just for convenience, if you wanted to get out of Explorer and go to the web app, if you were online, you can get more detail because all the maps are loaded on the fly when you zoom in and out. And then we've also added a link in here to go to the collector map. So let's say you're browsing in Explorer and you are online. You can click the link to edit the load center record and it will pop open the collector app and it will drop a pin. On an Android iOS device, you can just tap on that same location as the pin and it will pull up what was there. If you're on Windows 10, you have to close that dropped pin box, and then you can see the point and click on it. I don't know why it's different, but just minor nuance to be aware of, but it will take you to where that asset was. So you don't have to jump from one app to the other and then figure out where it was. It will take you right to it. And then you can always jump right back to the Explorer app afterwards. If you are selecting a light, you will get the same options to add an outage record, go to the collector map, go to the web apps. So everything that you can kind of see in Collector, you will get in Explorer, except the ability to edit, because Explorer is just viewing maps. It's not for editing data. So you still need Collector to edit the lights, load centers, and everything. But if you needed to add one when you were offline, this would be how you could download one of these areas ahead of time. When you're driving along, you can see the lights that are there. Go to the form to fill it out as you need. And then jump right back to the map where you came from. And I will fix that before we go live. So here with this area that I've downloaded, you can see I can zoom in pretty close. And if I had chosen the satellite imagery, you would get roughly a pretty great estimate of how close you are to where the point is on relationship to everything else. And so I have an outage form saved in the outbox in Survey123. So the next thing I will do is jump over to the Survey123 app. There is a counter here next to the outage form. It's a green 1. It's telling me I've got 1 survey sitting in the outbox. When you tap on it, you'll notice at the bottom below the collect button, there's now an outbox button. And how many records are in there? There's just 1. So if I tap on it, it will show me the district, the data was out, and how many lights are out. If I tap the 3 dots, I can choose to, I can go to that point in another app. I can delete that survey if it was a mistake. It will show me on a map where I recorded it. And finally, in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is a send button. All I have to do is tap that, and it will go through all of the items in the outbox and send them into the database. And that's the way you get them officially recorded in the system. As long as they're sitting on your device, no one else can get to them. So everyone kind of just needs to make sure they remember to submit all their points when they're done collecting. It doesn't have to be as soon as you collect it, just as soon as you can get it in there. That is everything that I'm going to show off from the iPad for now. I'm going to jump over to my laptop just to cover a few more things. Here on the desktop, I'm going to open up Survey123. If you're using Survey123 on Windows 10, I was trying to show this on the iPad, but I guess it wasn't working there. This form has an update, and it tells you that an update is required before you can use it. So that's another way that you can update your forms, is depending on which operating system you're using, the Survey123 app is helpful in getting you able to update your forms. Everyone should try to update their forms and offline maps before they go out, preferably somewhere with Wi-Fi or a strong mobile connection, because you won't be able to download offline maps or anything when you don't have signal. But once you have them downloaded, then you're kind of good to go. For Survey123 on Windows 10, this is a new thing that I had been working on, and it kind of stopped working for a bit, but then Esri updated the app, so I wanted to show that this does work on a desktop. So I will open up the highway lighting test collector map. If I were to check on this light here, you'll see I have the options for the Survey123 form in Android, iOS, or for Windows 10. If I choose the Android one here, it's going to open up the web browser and tell me that I need to download this on a mobile device. So what you need to use is this Windows 10 link, and that will ask you if you want to switch apps, and it will open up the survey form on your desktop or laptop. The thing about Survey123 for Windows, I know we had been getting everybody to have OIT deploy survey 123 to them. That version is not compatible with the links on Windows 10. To get this working, you will need the version from the Microsoft Store. And I believe it is out there and available, but we can double check. Pretty much the same way that you had Collector installed on your machine. There's an option for Survey 123. You have your Collector down in here. We may need to get Explorer added to the desktop. But this will be coming soon if it's not already available, that people will be able to download Survey 1 from the store, and then it will update just like Collector, so we don't have to worry about keeping tabs on when the apps were updated and making sure you're on the latest version. It should just automatically do that throughout the day. So that was one of the things I wanted to show from the desktop. The Explorer is still in beta on Windows 10, but it functions the same as on the iPad. You can have areas downloaded ahead of time. You can see all the lights and features and everything that's on the map when it's updated. You'll also be able to add data to the form from here as well. And then the only difference otherwise with Explorer is after working with the test merges, there were issues with attachments hanging up the offline areas and preventing them from being created. So not to waste everyone's device space with these giant lists of attachments, but also to be able to get these out there, the Explorer maps will not show you photos or files. They will show you all of the lights and data and everything that's recorded. You just won't be able to see anything that was uploaded with it. They are still in the database. They are just not in that offline file. One more thing from this offline area that I had created earlier on the iPad, I wanted to show when you tap on the load center, down here at the bottom, there's a section for related lighting. This load center only has one light, so it jumps right to it. If you had multiple lights, it would show you a list of them. So this is one of the ways you can see what's related to what when you're in the field. You can also use the link to the web app and see the same thing with attachments. And that's one of the reasons that that link is there, is Explorer is kind of to keep everything condensed so that you can smoothly work offline, whereas the web app is kind of everything in the database is accessible to you. If you are in the highway lighting editing group, you should automatically also be in the maintenance office group, and that's where all these read-only web apps are available. And I believe that covers everything that the system is currently capable of and the current workflow of everything. I have been working kind of hard to make sure that the system is ready to go for implementation. I am still working on everybody's merges as well. So I believe District 4, everything they gave me is in the test system. I just need to move it to production. Everything District 5 gave me is in the test system. It just needs to be put into production. Districts 2 and 1, I am still working on yours, and Paul, I'm working with you. And I think everyone else, we've already talked, and your data will be coming to us soon. So as you get me that data, I will work on getting it into the test system or the production system. We'll do it in test first to make sure it works and that there's no issues, and then we'll put it in production. Because we are putting everyone's lights into this one new system, one thing I do want to show is we have different symbols depending on the lights. We tried to use a P for pole, a U for underdeck, S for sign structure, H for high mast, L for load center, etc. We've also have a layer just for the merged lighting that maybe it doesn't have all the information, like if it wasn't known if it was a pole or an underdeck at the time or what kind of light it was. Here, this one's in red because it's still in the imported layer. All you would need to do is come into Collector and specify the pole type or change the lighting type to what it's supposed to be. After you save the data, I'm not going to save this one because it's part of the merge, but after you save it with the lighting type and the pole type completed, if applicable, You'll see here if the lighting type is pole, you've got options under the pole type, but if you were to select underdeck, the pole type, you don't have an option for it. When those two are completed, they will move to the other views where you can edit the rest of the data. But one of the issues with we've had in the past was the maps don't automatically refresh in the background because it's caused issues. So when you've gone through and organized all of your merge lighting that hasn't made it to one of the other layers, you would just need to close the map and then reopen it, and it will appear as under the different symbol and with the additional lighting questions available to you. So there is a little bit of a two-step process with the merge lighting once it's in the system, just to finish categorizing where everything belongs. But then from there, you will have the option to fill in all the information about the pole attributes, which ones apply. If they don't apply, all the fields will be set to NA. You can fill in the pole ID and the height, the fixture arm, the light bulb type if it hasn't been filled in. And then if I were to change to a different light type, you may get a question asking you about changing the feature type. I would recommend keeping your values where possible. When I selected keep here, it kept everything where it applied. For aluminum, painted isn't an option, but for everything else, you'll have to go and select yes and no for everything. And the reason I say don't choose reset is if you notice this pole ID, database ID number 2846 in the upper corner here for that record, if I choose to reset, okay, it's not doing it for the poles because it wasn't this layer that it was on the issue for. Okay, I will pull up one of these because it is a great example. So here we've got a pole box 3788. If I choose the type and hit reset, it will erase the data that's in there. Because of the templates that fill in some of the information, when you reset the values, it will try to use the default value that it came with. So you might notice some data that you had filled in disappear if you choose reset, rather than trying to keep it where you can. So I would say the best option is just when you change it, if you need to change it, to choose keep if at all possible. And that'll kind of help you keep everything where it is. As far as anything else with collector,
I think you covered everything. I guess the thing to remember is I know a lot in the past, a lot of the issues that we initially had was trying to get the apps on the devices. Make sure that your devices are compatible with these apps. As they're upgraded, these apps tend to get better, but the hardware, if it, I've heard and I've talked with our enterprise configuration people the people that were responsible for rolling out the software, and they said that anything, a hardware release of 7, be it a Samsung or iPhone or anything higher than 7 was good. It would work with the apps. So if you're working with a mobile device that is older than 3 or 4 years old, you may have a problem. Plus, there may not be enough space on the device to cache maps and offline files. So that you may want to keep in mind when you're trying to use the lighting system and go into offline modes. I do know that the district merges are ongoing. The system goes live tomorrow, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to start cold turkey, start recording lighting data tomorrow. If you still have data to be merged in your respective districts, get with your champion, make sure that your people have gotten the data sets sent to us. And if they have not been sent to us, get them to us, but do not start collect lighting data until these data sets have been merged into our database. We need to get the data merged, massaged, and put in place, integrated into the HWLO database for your particular district starts collecting the data. I noticed that there were some questions I saw early on where Paul Grakowski had raised his hand. Paul, you still there?
But I do have another question, is when you download the offline map, the blue dot will still track with you, correct?
That is correct.
And will it remember that GPS location if you put a point in?
When you put a point in, it'll pull your location in Survey 123 separately from that blue dot in Explorer. It should be the same location.
Right, so it's just going to remember from memory.
Yeah, it's not really remembering from memory. It's just that Collector and Explorer are reading your location with the GPS, and then Survey is also reading the location. So as long as they're not reading it differently from the GPS on your device, yeah, it's kind of like pulling it over, but it's still just capturing the same location again.
The reason why I asked that is just because I'm looking at in the cases when we have these outages due to storms, will that be accurate?
I don't know how accurate the GPS will be after a storm. I don't know. The GPS might be reliant on cell tower data, and if the cell towers are down, you might have some issues. But that's why if you download these the offline areas to the Survey 123 forms, your location doesn't have to be 100% accurate, because you'll still be able to pull up an offline copy of the map stored on the device to be able to kind of move it a little bit more precisely to where it belongs. Or for outages, there's no location recorded for outages. You're pretty much just adding a table record to it. So for outages, you don't have to worry about the GPS. As long as the GPS has you at the right light on the Explorer map, you'll be adding the outage record to the right record.
Okay, I'm just trying to look. I'm on a bunch of different teams, guys. So I'm looking at the disaster recovery team maps that were used. So I'm just trying to see if that would be something that we could possibly use for that in the future. I don't know how much outage they had over there in Pensacola. I'd like to see if it works. If they got any areas down out there, to see if we can do one of them offlines and see if it helps them.
Right. Oh, and I wanted to let you know that I know you had that one consultant who had a Windows tablet. I want to let you know that she should be able to do incidents from her tablet now as well, because I've added that same link to the ISPE maps. So if she downloads the Survey 123 app from the Windows Store, or her company does it, then she should be able to use her tablet as if she was using an Android or iOS.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I said, all right, that'd be great, because that was going to ask you if you're going to put that in ISPE. That's great. I was going to do that offline, but that's fine. Thanks for answering.
Explorer is not going to be ready to go for ISP just yet. I've got some other tweaks I have to make, but I'm intending that all the stuff we're doing for highway lighting to also go back into ISP.
William Isaacs, I see you out there.
Hey, thanks. To kind of touch back on the question that Paul had about the location data on the device when it does not have cellular service. So the way that works, I've reiterated that with the groups when it comes to damage assessment. I'll reiterate it here. All devices that have a GPS chip in them are using GPS signal to gain the location of the device. That location is enhanced by cellular service. So what that means for you is that if you don't have cellular service and you have a clear view of the sky, your location should be fairly accurate. That's plus or minus 3 meters to be fairly accurate. 3 meters is about 9 feet. Now, when you don't have a clear view of the sky, meaning that you're under trees, you're under a bridge, you've got things overhead that might be obstructing your view to the sky, you might have some more error in your location. Those things will be reported in the device, whether that's Survey 123 or Collector. If you go to the satellite button in the top right-hand corner of the device, it will tell you what your accuracy is in that area of the application. So that'll help you understand what your accuracy is when you're trying to find your location without cellular service. I've done the testing with iPads, with Android devices, and with iPhones when they're in what quote unquote airplane mode. Yeah, unfortunately, sorry to sidetrack there, Jonathan, it's not going to show on your computer because its computer doesn't have a GPS chip.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
But on the mobile devices, when you've got a clear view of the sky, your accuracy should be fairly high, and all three of the type model series devices should have GPS chips on board. There is one instance that I know of that you're going to run into an issue. That is when you have an iPad, specifically iPads that are not cellularly enabled. The GPS chip in those devices is actually on the cellular chip. And if you don't have the cellular chip in that device, you will not have GPS. So that
That's
means
good to know.
regardless of whether or not you have a cellular service plan on the device, you need to have a cellular service enabled device. Okay, and you can see here where Jonathan's showing that his long are collected, his altitude is collected, and that the accuracy is within 16 feet horizontal and 19 feet vertical. Now, you guys understand that this isn't survey grade data. We're not being surveyors here, but this is to get you close. So understand that when you're doing these highway lighting surveys, your approach terminal and crash cushion surveys, and go on to damage assessment surveys, like you were mentioning, emergency management things, they're all going to be using the same software, so your accuracy is going to be about the same.
Appreciate that.
Great
Thanks,
point.
William.
No problem.
Any more questions about the apps? Explorer, Collector, Survey 123.
Scott, this is Gary Pitts with Pine House Operations Center. I have a question. As far as the generating reports for the managing agencies, letting them know where there's outages in their area, do they have access to this information, the Survey 123 information, or can we generate a report by filtering by managing agency? Like St. Petersburg doesn't care what lights are out in Clearwater. So if I were to send a report to St. Petersburg, would I be able to filter and generate a report just the St. Petersburg lights?
I think you would be able to query it. We'd have to use some web apps to develop that.
Okay.
You would also have to be a member of the Esri ArcGIS Online community.
So I'm pulling it up on ArcGIS Online where it's intended to go that you can query this stuff. The one thing you'll need to be in is the maintenance office group. That's where all the web apps are. They're all read-only, so you don't have to be an editor or collector to be able to just view the data that's shared to the group. When you have that access, you'll have access to the web apps that we have. We have several that are updated on a regular basis. You can see other types, duplicates, location errors. I'm going to create a brand new one for the outages. I'll see if I can find a way to flag those outages on this map. But basically, you can come to the attribute table, go to options and filter, and you can say where, if maintaining agency is on this list, you could filter out the maintaining agency. You could put a where clause on the agency ID or description. And after you filter down all the records, you can export them all to a CSV file. And that will give you something you can open and access. You can convert it to an Excel spreadsheet, but then you'll have a list of all the outages that are there. And you'll have all the data that's included from that table. You'll have the coordinates in it as well. So hopefully this will be what you're looking for. And if it's not, let me know and I'll figure out a way to get you what you need on that outage report.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Oh, interesting point. The outages are going to be on a separate table, so they're not going to have the maintenance types there. I will look into it and find a way to get you that information for the outages. I'll see if I can get that going in ArcGIS Online somehow.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions on ArcGIS Online? Any other questions on Windows 10, Microsoft, the software center that we've been using traditionally, or the mobile device software using the comp portal that we use to govern our softwares? Any questions on those things?
I would like to make sure that everyone's aware that the latest version of survey is 3.10.326. In case you haven't updated your survey in a while, just make sure you're on the latest one so you can get latest features that Esri's been adding to it. And then that way, if we have any issues, we'll have better support too. But I think that's the one that we just need to remind everyone to make sure they have updated until we can hopefully get it available to everyone from the Windows Store, and then hopefully it'll update like Comp Portal and you won't have to keep track of it as often. Other than that, if there's any other questions.
Appreciate the training.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks.
Well, that's it. We're way past our.
Drew, what's the latest update for, are you referring to Survey or Collector or Explorer or?
Survey 123, what did you say it was?
I believe it was 3.10.326.
Correct.
Okay.
With that, I think we'll just hang up for now, but if you have any questions, just send us an email. And I gave you the list of those and their names, but if they don't know it, that's fine. Copy them, email us, myself or Jonathan or Kirk or David. We will get you the answers. If we don't have the answer, we will find the answer for you. But I appreciate each and every one of you for joining us that could, and hopefully you'll be able to get this. It's not that hard. It's just getting used to navigation. Once the navigation is down, this is not that bad. It flows really well, jumping from app to app within the flow of those links, within the forms, and the flow of what you're doing. This gives us the ability to archive data, historically go back and retrieve data, and actually we have a way to back up this data so we don't lose it. It's all part of a systems design, and what this is a complete system. So with that, I'm going to sign off right now, and we'll see you guys later on. If maybe one day I'll get to come visit the districts like we were starting to do before this COVID thing set in. But we'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. And if you got any questions, email us, email your champions, copy us. But we'll see you tomorrow then. Center, and they also have the Microsoft Store. There's problems with the Software Center. There is a version of Survey 123 in Software Center for DOT computers that is very, very old. It's 3.0.134. If you see that version of Survey 123 in the Software Center, not in the Microsoft Store, but this is in the Software Center on your PC, your Windows 10 desktop or laptop, that version is invalid. I need to have them remove that. I need to talk to our rollout people, our enterprise DOT central office, CO configuration patch management team, and have that removed. The version of Survey 123 on a Windows 10 device needs to come from the Microsoft Store. The current version of Collector is also in that Microsoft Store. It appears right now, lately in the last 6 months or so, that the Microsoft Store is keeping the latest versions of the Esri apps current and provided to DOT users that have access to the Esri apps on the Windows 10 platform. So if you're using a mobile device, of course, you've got to deal with the Comp Portal. If you have a DOT device, your Comp Portal has to be signed in with your user account and password before Comp Portal can update those apps on those devices as well, be it iOS or Android. Just make sure that your devices are working with the Comp Portal signed in, and then you check the versions of the software on your mobile device and make sure those are compatible, up to date, and current versions. I think it's 3.10.326 is the current version of Survey 123 on Android and iOS. And then Collector, I think the current versions are 20.2.1 or something like that, and or 20.2.4. I think is the latest. I really believe that's about right. But anyway, just stay current. Try to get the apps correctly installed on your mobile devices. OIT should be able to assist. If not, then send us a message and let us know. We can forward those requests and those issues up to them, and we may be able to assist you with that.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
What was because I'm looking on the Windows version of Survey 123, and it has the Windows 10 version 17763.0 or higher. Is that okay? Or is that means what the laptop needs to have?
You are using a Windows 10 laptop?
Well, I have an iPad, but I have a laptop now. So, you know, when I get back in, or if I can do stuff in the office first, it'll be on the laptop.
And I'm assuming it's a Windows 10 laptop.
Correct.
What you need to do is make sure your version you download or get, are you inside or outside of DOT?
I'm inside.
Then there you should look for, in your list of apps, in your start menu, when you click to start, you have a list of all the apps and the programs on your Windows 10 machine.
Right.
You need to look for a Microsoft Store.
I'm in it.
Okay, when you see Microsoft Store,
Mm-hmm.
if you're teleworking, I can tell you this right now, if you're teleworking and you try to go into Microsoft Store, it's going to tell you, there's an error. You
Mm-hmm.
can't do it. So you need to be out of VPN. You need to disconnect your VPN in order to view the apps in the Microsoft Store on your
Okay.
Windows 10 machine.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get into Microsoft Store on your Windows 10 machine, there should be a listing of apps. Survey 123 is in there, and so is Collector.
I didn't see the collector. I've got the 123.
When this Survey 123, do you know where you're looking at to get the version?
That's what I'm trying to find out. I clicked on it and it gives me what new is in this version, system requirements.
You're
Okay.
not going to get the version from that screen. When you open the Survey 123 app,
Mm-hmm.
also sharing my screen to show you as well. But
Good.
from here on the Survey 123 app,
Okay.
let me show the full desktop. If you click on this button in the upper right corner, it's got my initials in it.
Mm-hmm.
There at the bottom, it says version, and
Uh-huh.
that's the version to pay attention to.
310326. That's what we need.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Mine I haven't installed because I didn't know it could be installed on the laptop. So I'm going to have these three installed so that way I can kind of work back and forth.
I believe Explorer is not available on the store yet. I'm not sure how I have it, but if you go to the Microsoft Store and you see Florida Department of Transportation show all 29.
Yep.
When you click on that, here at the bottom is the collector application. It's kind of at the end of the list.
All right.
Kind of a small print.
Oh, okay. I got it. Yep. I got it. So, okay. All right.
It may be that the department has not allowed Explorer to be showing in the department's Microsoft Store.
Okay.
It's probably out there in a regular Microsoft Store, but the department filters our apps that we can access on our Windows 10 machines inside DOT's firewalls.
Okay. All right, but with me having the collector, if we're going to enter or capture the load centers, that needs to be done through the collector, and then that's through what I could do like in the office here and get it loaded and then go out and pull the light poles, correct?
Yes.
You could do that.
Okay.
So I'm pulling up the collector map now. I can show you how to get to the load centers from the Windows 10 collector.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as it loads, it will be in the upper right corner of the screen. There will be a plus button.
Okay. Got it.
And then it'll open up this tab on the left that says Collect New.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the options there will be load centers.
Yep.
So then all you have to do is click on that, select a point on the map where you want to place it, and then you can fill in the information that's available there, and you can upload attachments to it.
Okay. All right.
And once you've entered everything, just hit the submit button in the upper right corner. It will save it to the database. And then that load center point will be there with the link to be able to add lighting records to it.
Okay. All right. Now, one other question, the pool boxes, do they have to be entered before the lighting, or once you get out in the field? You know, with
Nope.
you can do the light pole and then add the pool box right there?
You can add pole boxes, splice boxes whenever you want. They're not related to the lights. They're just points on a map indicating that there's one there.
Okay.
The only times you need to have things in the database before you can collect them is that the load center needs to be in before you can record a light to it.
Right.
And you need to have a light in the database before you can add an outage to it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
If you go to our website and look at the handbook that we posted, that first diagram that Jonathan showed us in the very beginning, it showed out to the right other features you collect, and it listed those 4 things: pull boxes, load centers, and stuff like that out to the right. And that's where you can get a clue to say, okay, well, I can add that anytime, those things.
All right. Thank you.